In this video, let's talk about provide and inject. Imagine the case where a deeply nested component needs something from a distant ancestor component. With props, we can pass the same prop across the entire parent chain. For example, if the article component needs a value in root, we can pass this value as a prop from root to main, and then from main to article. Notice, although the main component may not care about these props at all, it still needs to get involved, that is, declare and pass them along just so the article component can access them. This may not be a problem in this simple example, but imagine there is a longer parent chain. More components would be affected along the way. This is called props drilling, and definitely isn't fun to deal with. We can solve this props drilling problem with provide and inject. An ancestor component can serve as the dependency provider for all its descendants. Any component in the descendant tree, regardless of how deep it is, maybe a direct child, maybe grandchild, or maybe grand-grandchild, can inject dependencies provided by components up in its parent chain, like this. This is really convenient. Let me show you a demo in VS Code. First, let me create a Git branch for this Vue concept, so it will be easier for you to review the code later. Git branch, Vue, components, provide, inject, git, switch. Note that we're now on branch Vue components, provide, inject. Here is a simple starter code in app.vue. Hello, provide, and inject. Next, let's define two components. Component A and component B. So what I want to do is app contains component A, and then component A includes component B. So grandparent, parent, and child component. So let me collapse this. Okay, first, let's quickly create a template here for component A. And here, let's write h2. This is component A. Let me copy this and paste in here. But this is component B. All right, for this one, let me put this h2 inside the div. All right. Then in the app component, let's import component A. And here we can use component A. Let's put it in a div. Component A. As you can see, this is component A. So let me give this div a background color, so it's more obvious. Background color. Let's say orange. And also a padding left, 10 pixels. All right, then let's go to component A. Component A, here we need to import component B from component B.vue. And here, let's use component B twice. And here, let me refresh. And here, let's also give this div a background color and a padding left. So style, background color, light green, and also padding left 10 pixels. Okay, so as you can see, app contains component A. Component A contains 2 component Bs. Let's move on to component B. Okay, so component B, let's give this div a background color style and make it light blue. So now the containment relationship is pretty straightforward. All right, so here is the story. Let's say component B needs this message data that defined in app. This one. In other words, we're trying to pass this message from app to component B. Component A doesn't really care about this message. Of course, you can use props. So you pass this message from here to here, from here to here. But we can actually pass it from app to a descendant component directly by using provide and inject. So here is the syntax. The app component is the provider of this dependency, in this case, a variable. So first, we need to import provide from Vue. And then we can use this provide method. And it takes 2 arguments. The first argument is called the injection key. So here, let's call it MSG. It can be anything. The second argument is the provided value, in this case, message. The first argument is used by descendants to look up the desired value to inject. A component here can call provide method multiple times with different injection keys to provide different values to its descendants. In this case, we only provide one value. The second argument can be of any type. Well, in this example, message is a ref object. It's reactive data. Providing reactive value to descendants allows the descendant components using the provided value to establish a reactive connection to the provider component. So if this message in the provider changes, any descendant that injects this value in will also receive the update. I'll show you an example later on. Okay, so now app provides this data, and we need to inject it into component B. Here is the syntax. Since provide is a method that we need to import, so here we also need to import inject from Vue. Inject. Inject takes 1 argument. Well, you can pass 2, but really 1 is needed. It is the injection key, MSG. So make sure this one and this one, they match. Okay, then we need to define a variable. For example, let message from app to receive the corresponding value of this injection key. In this case, this message. In this example, message from app is also a ref object. So we can use it in the template. So here, let me use it in a mustache notation, message from app. Okay, well, if you want to use it inside the script, you have to use message from app dot value because this is a ref object. And here, let's refresh. All right, as you can see, both component Bs, now the first component B and second component B, they both received the message from their grandparent app.vue. Now let me turn on the Vue DevTools. So let's make a modification to this message. As you can see here, it also shows the provided value. All right, so let's change this from hello provide inject to hello Vue. Okay, and then when I click save, pay attention to the 2 injected values here. Okay, so all 3 changed. Hello Vue in the app component and hello Vue, hello Vue. By default, inject assumes that the injection key is provided somewhere in the parent chain. In the case where the key is not provided or not found, there will be a runtime warning. So it is always a good idea to provide a default value. So that's the second argument, default message. It's not required, but it's a good idea that we use this defensive programming. So if MSG is not found, then default message will be supplied here. So for example, here I'm going to change it to MSG123. Apparently we don't have this injection key. So look at here. Now the default message is shown. Let me change it back. I'm sure some students have this question. Can I change this message from app in this descendant object? What will happen? Or am I supposed to do it? Can you tell me the answer? No, it's not a good idea. When using provide, inject values, just like props, it is recommended to keep any mutations to reactive state inside the provider of this value whenever possible. If you really want to change the message from app, you better let app do it, because this guy is the provider of this value. It provides message. This ensures that the provided state and its possible mutations are co-located in the same component, making your code easier to read and maintain in the future. If you really want to update this data from this injector component, by the way, we call this injector component, and this is the provider component. In such case, we recommend that the provider, besides providing the data, it also provides a mutation function. That is a function which is responsible for mutating this message. And here I'm going to provide a function called update message. Okay, I haven't defined it yet. So here, let's define it. Function update message. For example, let's change it to hello provide inject updated. Okay, so please note that this provider provides two things, message and update message. Okay, so there are two values and we encapsulate them into one JavaScript object. So basically this is the provided value and this is the corresponding injection key. Then let's go to the injector component, component B. Now in this case, this inject returns that JavaScript object with two properties, message and update message. Okay, so here we can use destructuring assignment. And the first one is message. Let's rename it to message from app. And the second one is update message. Under this message, let's create a button. Let's call this update message. Add click update message. Okay, we're done. So let's take a look. Refresh. Let me refresh here. Okay, so right now it is hello provide inject. Everything's hello provide inject. So let me click this update message. Okay, so all three messages are changed to the updated version. So this is pretty slick. The provider provides the data and the mutation function. And the injector can use the data, and once the injector component wants to change it, it can just use the provided mutation function. Finally, you can wrap the provided value with read-only if you want to ensure that the data passed through provide cannot be mutated by a descendant component, or we call it injector component. So let's go to app. Let's define a second ref object. Let count ref 0, and we're going to provide it. Let's call this read only count. Now here you can use count. To make this count read only, we need to wrap the provided value with read only. And of course you have to import it here, read only. Then component A and component B can only use it, but cannot mutate the count. In summary, in Vue.js, the provide and inject mechanisms are used to create a dependency injection system between components. This feature allows deeper nested components to access data from their ancestor components without having to pass props all the way down through intermediate components. This is particularly useful for avoiding something called prop drilling. That is the process of passing data through multiple layers of components that do not really need the data themselves. The provide and inject mechanism can also simplify the component architecture significantly. Next, let me push this branch to GitHub. Pass data to descendant components with provide and inject. Git push. All right, this concludes the topic of data passing between components. We'll discuss passing data between components using global state management, PINA, in a later video. In the next video, let's talk about Vue slots. It also enables us to pass data from parent to child component, but in a different format. See you there.